Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Red Delta Project podcast, where we teach you how to maximize your results with minimalist fitness approaches like Grind-Style Calisthenics, satisfying healthy eating strategies. My name is Matt Schifferly, founder of the Red Delta Project and author of the books Fitness Independence and Smart Bodyweight Training. Today I'm answering some of your top questions that I've gotten over the past week concerning primarily calisthenics, and well, let's just jump right into it. The first question I get is, do calisthenics skills help you build muscle? Now, this is something I've addressed in the past, where things that are very technically challenging and demanding are a little bit different than like the grind style approach, which is more of a work the muscles hard, but have a lower challenge to the technical aspects of the exercise. And while in my opinion, if you just want to build muscle and brute strength, that going for simpler, more basic exercises like dips and pull-ups are going to be your best bet for building muscle, skill work most certainly does help you build muscle. Basically, think about it this way. Any form of training that tests the work capacity of your muscles in either how hard they can work or how long they can work or a combination thereof is going to help you build muscle, regardless of what it is or even how you do it to a large degree. As long as you're telling the muscles to work harder and longer, increasing that time under tension, then yes, it is a viable way to help you build muscle. But the converse way to think about that is that at the same time, all methods can potentially not help you build muscle, depending upon any of the circumstances that don't allow you to really test that time under tension. Like, for example, if you're just so caught up in focusing on having the perfect routine or just having the perfect technique, but you're not really mentally focused on trying to push the work capacity of the muscle, then even the best exercises for supposedly building muscle aren't going to do a whole lot for you because you're quitting before they're really fatigued or you're not working them hard enough with enough resistance. Second question is a big, huge range of motion bad for your joints? And this is something that we come across a lot, where people say things like, don't dip with your shoulders below your elbows, which I do quite often, so I hear that a lot, or don't go into it too deep of a squat, or don't come all the way down in pull-ups. There's a bunch of these kinds of ideas out there. And this idea of not going with a bigger range of motion for fear of putting strain and stress on the joints is somewhat warranted, but it's not the range of motion that's the detrimental element that can put you at risk. It's what happens within that range that is detrimental. So one of the things that happens with big range of motion exercises, particularly deep squats and dips and so on, is there's a loss of tension control, and some of the muscles and the stability kinds of relaxes a little bit and your technique shifts. What this does is it creates misalignment in some of your primary joints. Maybe your body position shifts around, or when you're in that bottom position, you're okay there, but you kind of give this little jerk, or you're kind of moving your body in an unhealthy way to get out of that bottom position. So that can be somewhat stressful onto the tissues around your joints, and it fosters this idea that, well, going that deep is bad for the joints. But we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because the actual range of motion and the depth that you're getting to isn't really that thing that's causing the problem. It's what's happening in that range that's causing it. And it's certainly possible to train yourself with greater mobility, tension control, and strength to not have that shift in your body position, or to get out of those deeper positions in a smoother way. So don't avoid the bottom position just for that sake. Instead, I recommend practice deeper, bigger ranges of motion with moderate resistance, and pay attention to how your weight and your technique is shifting or changing, even in the smallest ways, in that bottom position. Also pay attention, of course, to how you may be compromising your technique to get out of that position. And if you can become aware of those differences and minimize them over time, then going through a bigger, deeper range of motion will not only be fairly safe, but it will actually strengthen your ability to work within that bigger range of motion and actually make your joints stronger and healthier. Next question is, how would I incorporate skill work in grind-style calisthenics? Because grind-style is usually a fairly low-skill approach to calisthenics in order to just make the muscles work really hard to help them build muscle and strength. But I know some people out there saying, well, how would you do skill work integrated into it anyway? The answer for that is put another phase into your 4-phase workout. So in grind-style calisthenics, you usually have your tension control phase, your stability phase, then you have your grind phase where you're really working that muscle capacity, then you have the optional hypertrophy phase where you have a finisher, or you're working on building up specific muscles with, quote, isolated or focused work. So what you would want to do is put your skill work in between the stability and the grind phase. And what this will allow you to do is improve upon your skills because you'll have built some of the tension control and stability prior to practicing your skillful work. But the real key is how you're practicing that skill phase. And what you want to do is practice a good number of sets because you're practicing here. You're trying to build the proficiency in the skills. So I recommend 3 to 6 sets, however you feel comfortable with, and make sure you're terminating each set well before muscular fatigue. That way you're not burning your muscles out too much before that grind phase, because that grind phase is meant to burn out your muscles to a very high capacity. So that's what I would do, is 3 to 6 sets depending on time and energy, and go to about 50% of your work capacity. Like when you're feeling about 50% fatigued on each set, give yourself plenty of rest, good 3, maybe even 4 minutes in between each set of whatever skill you're working on. And then after that, then you go into your grind phase and hypertrophy phase. And that way you're going to be able to maximize your skill work and your grind phase muscle and strength building work in the same workout. And the final question I often get is, when are you supposed to move up or change the levels that you're working at, either in combat conditioning or the grind style, where it has 6 levels of progression? And to be honest with you, this is kind of an attitude that I want to encourage people to not get stuck in, but hey, it's kind of my own fault for fostering this kind of attitude, because here I am saying, this is the level that you're at, work within these various levels. But instead, think about it more from a principle approach. Because if you were, say, for example, lifting weights, usually when it comes to sound weight training theories, you don't lift one weight. Like if you're a bench presser, you don't say, yep, I lift 135 all the time. That's the only weight I ever lift. Of course not. Due to different program parameters or periodization, you'll go heavier sometimes, you'll go lighter sometimes, higher rep, lower rep, speed training and slow it down. There's a lot of reasons why you would use a range of resistances within a weightlifting program. And calisthenics is really no different. Remember, training the body with calisthenics is really no different than training it with external weights, because calisthenics is actually a form of weightlifting. It's just you're the weight. We just change our resistance different ways through adjusting the technique. So with that in mind, we want to approach our general approach to resistance training the same way we would with weights, where we're using a range of resistances. We don't want to feel like we're stuck at one level, like, oh, I'm at this one level in combat conditioning or this one level in the grind style method or anything. Instead, there are plenty of reasons to regress to lower levels. For example, the other day, I was not really feeling it in my legs and stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to do my usual jumbo squats, which are level 5 in the combat conditioning grind style 6, level 6. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do the regular shrimp squats, which is level 4, and I'm going to go really high rep, and I wanted to see if I could challenge myself getting 20 rep sets in shrimp squats, and I was able to do it. 2 sets, 20 reps each leg, and yeah, it hurt. It was really, really tough, but that was part of the point, is the stimulus of doing that many repetitions wasn't going to come from the jumbo shrimp squats that I was practicing otherwise. And at the same time, sometimes you want to go heavier. In fact, the grind style program that I'm going to be making after I create the book, I'm going to be coming out with a full year-long, or at least a 16-week program, and we're going to be modifying and changing the resistance level throughout the program. So sometimes I'll be saying, use a resistance you can only do 10 reps on, or even 5 repetitions on. And then sometimes it's use a resistance you can do 20 reps. So we're just swapping out the resistance, sometimes going heavier, sometimes going lighter. By the way, one of the most beneficial things sometimes with going lighter is you can actually build more muscle and strength sometimes with going lighter. I was talking about this with a friend the other day, and they were remarking, and they're like, I'm going much lighter, but I feel like I'm getting stronger. How is that even possible? Like, I'm building muscle? That doesn't work. And I meant to just bring it down to the baseline. I'm like, look, remember, weights don't make you strong. Exercises don't make you strong. The active ingredient that changes your muscles' look, appearance, and functional capacity is the use of muscle tension. That's why grind style is all about using and creating muscle tension to the most effective way. So sometimes when you go with a very heavy level of resistance, it can actually compromise your ability to control and manipulate muscle tension. So going down in resistance can improve things like tension control and stability and balance and range of motion and a whole host of other factors that can actually improve the quality and in many cases the quantity of muscle tension within the muscle. And in that regard, you're actually going lighter, but you're getting stronger. And this is something that's a very good thing to experiment with from time to time, like what I did with my shrimp squats the other day, is go a level or two lower and just go for higher reps. Do them as well as you possibly can. See what happens. See how you feel the next day. Do you feel it more in your chest when you go to a lower level push-up? Do you feel it more in your back when you do like jackknife pull-ups versus regular pull-ups? Sometimes that can be a real eye-opener into seeing what you can do with a lighter weight, because if the quality and the quantity of the tension in the actual muscle is better with a lighter level of resistance, then you're actually better off with less resistance, at least periodically. So I hope some of these questions and answers have been beneficial to you on your calisthenics training journey. If you like these, please give it a good thumbs up. If you're here on YouTube or if you're listening to the podcast here on like Apple or something, please leave reviews, 5 stars and all that. It's greatly appreciated and really helps us out. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can check out these videos here that I'm pointing to my left for those who are listening, and subscribe and do all that great and clever stuff. And as always, comments and questions down below in the RDP community are always welcome. I'll talk to you folks next week. Till then, be fit, live free.